Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Lilina Magallanes, and I'm one of the industry specialists here at Bluebeam Software. And today I have the honor to host our very first Review Mac webinar. As you know, Bluebeam is not your typical company. We push the limits of the world's most document-intensive industries by creating intuitive PDF-based digital markups and collaboration solutions. On Tuesday, April 12th, we officially launch Revu Mac. Revu Mac delivers essential PDF editing, markup, and collaboration capabilities designed to keep everyone on the same page. With our owners in the office, architects at their desks, and contractors in the field, today's technical professionals, you, need a universal solution to manage and mark up your digital documents. So at the core of Revu Mac, you will find Revu Mac's intuitive interface that makes it easy to find the tools you need when you need them. You'll also find Markup and Measure. Create, track, and organize as many customized markup tools as you can create and save them in the tool chest for easy use. And Revu's customizable markups list tracks the author, date, time, and comments associated with each markup. In addition, our measurement markup tools automatically calculates and tracks all related measurement markups as well. Document editing. Revu Mac's editing gives you the ability to add, delete, extract, and rotate pages, as well as copy and paste true type font from your PDF document. Also, split PDFs into multiple sections to view large format drawings easily and efficiently. Overlay pages saves time by instantly highlighting the differences between two document revisions. And last and not least, we have Bluebeam Studio that allows you to upload and share unlimited number of PDFs on any other files to the cloud with Studio projects. Studio Sessions allows you to invite attendees from multiple offices in different time zones to view, chat, and mark up the same PDFs together in real time. So regardless of internet access, everyone's activity is tracked so you can always find who said what and when. And the best part, Bluebeam Studio platform functions across multiple operation systems, so while you work on your Mac, your partner can also leverage Studio from any desktop, Windows tablet, or iPad. All right, so let's actually see Revu Mac in action. So as you can see, I'm currently in Revu Mac's interface. So I have my menu bar sitting at the top, and I can always leverage Mac's menu bar that you can see as I'm hovering my mouse over the very top, and I can access Mac's menu bar. So when I click on any of these menu items in Revu Mac, you can see that I can access other features as I'm clicking through the menu bar, and you can see that the command bar changes as I click through the menu items. Now, if I want to access my files, I simply go to my View menu, click on that tab icon that allows me to open my File Access panel, and here you have the panels that open on the left and on the right of the screen where I can access additional commands with Bluebeam Revu Mac. So let's say I want to go ahead and open up a document. So let me open up my A1 first floor plan sheet. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up a revision copy at the same time. So Revu Mac's interface allows me to use the split screen functionality where I can take two revisions of the same document, and having the sync functionality turn on at the same time, I can pan and zoom on either side of the screen, and you'll notice that the other side will follow and mimic those same actions. This really gives me the ability to take a look at two revisions, and I can really start to look at where the differences lay within my drawing sheet. Now, Revu Mac does allow you to split your screens up to 16 times. In addition, I can take any of these document tabs and place them on a second monitor. Also, what I can do is I can take two documents and overlay them on top of each other. So let's say I want to take these two documents that I have in front of me. So I'm simply going to navigate over to my document tab, locate my overlay command, which is these two icons, red and green. And I'm going to go ahead and add a revision copy. So it has revision 1 added. I'm going to navigate over to my Explorer menu and look for that revision copy. And I'm going to make sure that the second revision copy comes in with a green layer. Perfect. So now, as soon as I click OK, Revu is going to compare both of those documents. It's going to overlay them on top of each other. And let me turn off my split functionality so we can see that overlay file. Now in the overlay document, you can see that red and green blend really nicely together. So everything that I see pop in color is what's the difference between one file and the other. Now I navigated over to my tabs menu, where I'm going to open up that layers tab in Revu. Okay, so here I have the layers tab open on the right side of my screen. And now at any moment, I can turn off any of those layers that are brought in, so I can only focus on one layer, and I can always toggle them off and on. So here I have both of the layers turned on, where I can see those colors pop through. Okay, so let me go ahead and close this overlay file. I'm not going to save this file. And now I'm going to navigate to a different type of sheet. So I'm going to go into my document tab and open up that file axis where I had previously opened up my A1.1 sheet. Now in this document, I can use the wheel of my mouse and zoom in and out. And now let's say that I'm working with a couple of other project team members. And if I go to my markup menu, I can access all of those markup tools that I have available in my command bar. So I have my text type markups that I can add a text box, callout, or typewriter. Have my pin markups where I can add a pin markup or a highlighter, line type markups, and then I have my shape markups. So let me go ahead and grab a cloud markup and place this directly on my PDF file. And I can go ahead and right click and drag and place that markup on my PDF file. And then what I can do is I'm going to right click and go into my properties panel and have the properties panel tab open. Now from here I can leverage the properties panel in Revu Mac to go ahead and change that subject name. So let's say I change that name to engineer. And the reason that's important for me is because the markups list below keeps a record of every single markup or comment that gets recorded in the PDF. So I want to make sure that I don't let it default to that default name, later on I'll dive into the markups list where we can leverage information, filter to the markups or comments, and then create a summary report. But for now, I'm going to add that engineer as a subject name. And then just below that, I can go ahead and change the appearance properties. So I want to give this a fill color. We'll go with a nice green color. But then you can see that it's covering the content that's underneath. So I'm going to check out the highlight that makes the markup transparent so I can see the content that's underneath my markup. From here, I have other options where I can change the fill opacity percentage, so I can always decrease that. And I can always change my line style. So I have a couple line styles that I can choose from in Revu Mac. Now, if I want to use this markup in the future for future use, rather than having to recreate this markup from scratch every single time, I can go ahead and leverage my tool chest where I can save this markup for future use. So now I'm going to navigate to my tabs menu and open up that tool chest. So as you can see, I have a couple of tools. So I have my tools, which is pretty much standard for every registered copy of Revu Mac. And my recents tools shows me all of my recently used markups. So when I exit out of Revu and come back, the recents tool will be refreshed every single time. And I have a couple other tool sets that I have already loaded. So I have my architect tool set, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and I also have some estimating tool sets that I like to use. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on that blue cogwheel where it allows me to create my own custom tool set. So let's say I want to do a design review tool set. I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, I have that new tool set that I created. So as soon as I click OK to exit out of this dialog menu, I have that new tool set that's located at the bottom of my tool chest panel. Now I'm going to go ahead and add this tool set to that I want to go ahead and add this markup to the new tool set that I added. So looking at the Properties panel, way at the bottom, I have an option that says Add to My Tools. In this case, I'm going to right-click, and it says Add to Tool Chest. So this way, in this context menu, I have the new option that says Design Review, which is that tool set that I want to add it into. So I have this new markup. So right now, when I click on it, it gives me an exact carbon copy of that markup. So I don't want an exact carbon copy, so when I double-click on that markup in the tool set, I can bring that same markup in its drawing mode, where I can reuse the properties of the markup and then place that markup on my PDF document in a different location with a different shape. Now, don't forget, I did give these two markups a subject name of engineer, and those two markups have been recorded in the markups list below with the subject name of engineer. We'll come back to talk a little bit more about the markups list in a minute. Now, the great thing about the tool chest is that I can save as many markups as I custom create, and I can also share them, export them out, and share them with other project team members. And this will allow my team to work in a very nice, standardized, uniform environment using the same markup tools. Now, let's say that within my team, each one of my team members had received the same sheet for their review in their inbox. And now what happens at the end of a reviewing cycle, I may end up with 4 or 5 different copies of the same document in my inbox. So now I have to go ahead and manage all of those markups or comments. So rather than copying every single markup individually, I'm going to go ahead and leverage Review Mac's import feature. So when I open up the markups list, I have this import feature. So I'm going to click on Import. Now I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my files where I'm going to import my comments. So I'm going to multi-select these 3 files in here. Say Open. And now Review is importing all those markups or comments from those 3 files into this single sheet that I'm currently viewing. So this allows me to save myself the headache of having to manually copy everything over, or having to manage and view 3 different sheets at the same time. So as you can see up above, I have all of my markups or comments that have been imported from those other team members. Now, taking a closer look at the markups list, so as promised. So in the markups list, I can always collapse or expand my markups list. I can use the up and down arrows to navigate up and down each one of the markups list. And as you notice, as I click through each one of these markup items, you'll notice that Review will navigate me to that markup on my PDF file. Now I love taking advantage of the filter functionality in the markups list. So let's say I just want to focus on all of my markups that belong to my architect. So when I turn on that filter funnel, click on that drop-down arrow and select Architect, the markups you see below are only the ones that belong to the architect. Now looking at my PDF file, you'll also notice that I have a lot of markups that have been grayed out. And then I have a couple markups that are not grayed out. The grayed out markups are the ones that are not part of the filter. The ones that I have that are in color are the markups that have the subject name architect, which is exactly what I want to see. In this case, I like using the filter because I can visually see all of the architect's markups in color. Everyone else have been grayed out. Again, I can click through the menu items and Review navigates me to those same markups, so I can take a closer look at what those markups are. I can also take advantage of multiple filter levels. So let's say I want to filter by a subject name, but I also want to filter maybe perhaps by an author. So I can take advantage of the author, or maybe by a status. So I can set multiple levels of filters to really narrow down my results. This little trash can icon allows me to clear all my filters, and now you'll see all the markups reappear in my PDF file. The search box allows me to search for any markups for any particular wording. So let's say, for example, I want to look at markups that are referring to any of accessibility markups or any comments. So as you can see, when I type in ADA, it has narrowed down to 2 markups that are referring to accessibility comments or concerns. Next, I have the column. So I have a couple columns that are coming out of the box with Review Mac, and it opens up this context menu. So every column in here that has a check mark is currently a column that I can visibly see in my markups list. So at any point, I can turn off and on any of these columns. So let's say, for example, I want to check off the page column, and you'll notice that it dynamically disappears in the markups list below. If I'm working with other team members who have created custom columns, I could also take advantage and import those custom columns into my registered copy of Revu Mac. I can now use the X to delete markups, and I can also reply to markups by clicking on this green arrow. So let's say I want to make a comment or reply to a comment where it says verify ADA access. I can click on that reply and type in verified at 5-foot clearance. I'll even put my initials at the end. So now I have that reply response to that initial markup in the markups list. Now the little traffic light symbol, this allows me to set a status. So I have two statuses that I can choose from with Revu Mac. That's review and migration. So I can always select any of those line items in my markups list below. So I'll take this first line item, and I'm going to set a review status to be accepted. Now in the status column, you'll notice that it takes a date. It gives me a date and a timestamp of when that line item has changed its status. And of course, we talked about this earlier. This allows me to import markups or comments from other PDF files. And I can always export markups out and save them as a markup file. Now, Revu Mac does give me two output options. So I can do a CSV summary report or a PDF report. So let's say, for example, I can take these architect markups and I want to export them out as a PDF report. So I'm going to do a PDF. I'm going to do all pages. And I'm going to go ahead and rename the summary report to architect. All right. And then I'm going to make sure everything looks good, creates hyperlinks, fantastic, and it's going to append to the current PDF. Great, we're looking good. So now Revu Mac is going through all those items in the markup summary and is going to create a really nice PDF summary report in just a few seconds. Give that a couple more seconds. Perfect. Let me minimize the markups list. Let me turn on my thumbnails panel so you can see that it did append it to the current document. So here we have that drawing sheet, and then just below that we have those architect summary comments. Now when I zoom into that summary report, you can see the information that's placed in here is the same information that's been recorded in the markups list below. And I also get a really nice thumbnail of what that markup looks like. So when I hover my mouse over the thumbnail, I have a really nice, it's actually hyperlinked to the drawing itself. So when I click on that thumbnail, it navigates me back to the drawing where I can then zoom out and get a better perspective of what's happening in my drawing. Again, let me come back to that summary report. And then remember that reply that I added earlier? So, and besides seeing the markup recorded in the summary, it also recorded that reply. So I can have that ongoing conversation recorded and then output a summary report from that. All right, so let's take a look at, I'm not going to go ahead and save this file. So let's talk about the measurement suite with Revu Mac. So one of the first things we want to do when we are doing measurements and takeoffs with Revu Mac is we want to calibrate our sheet. So in this particular instance, I have my scale here at the bottom right. So I can see that 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. So I can enter the calibration in two methods with Revu Mac. I can hit the calibrate button to select two known points, or I can go ahead and manually enter the scale. So in this case, I'll enter 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. And now my sheet is calibrated. And now I'm ready to go ahead and do my measurements and markups in Revu. Now, I did mention that I did have some estimation tools in my tool set. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and display this from symbol mode into a detail mode. And I want to do some takeoff for some carpeting. So let me go ahead and navigate to some of the offices that we have for this airport project. And I'm going to take this carpet estimation tool. I'm going to right click and hold and take the area square footage for this office. So right now it's set at 146 square feet. Now I can always come into my measurement panel and change those units if I need to change them. And then also if I toggle over to my measurements panel, I can always select that markup, and I have the option in my properties panel to decide to show all measurements. So besides giving me my square footage, I will show my parameter, wall area, volume, and area square footage. Now, I also like using the count tool within the measurement suite in Revu. So let's say I want to take a count for all of the different sinks that I have available in this plan. So with the measure, in the measurement menu, I have the count tool, and I can start clicking through each one of these sinks. Simply drop those check marks. I'm going to exit out of that counting mode, right click to open up that properties panel, and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't have that default name of count measurement. I'm going to change that over to the word sinks. Now again, don't forget that this gets recorded in the markups list below. So here we have two measurement markups, one for the carpet for the office that we took, and then we have a count measurement for the sinks as well. All right, now that we've taken a look at what it looks like to work with our documents offline and independently, single sheet, let's take a look at Studio. So let me close these files that I have in here. Let me go ahead and access my Studio panel. So a couple things about Studio is we have two parts to Studio. So with every registered copy of Revu Mac, we have Studio Sessions and we have Studio Projects. Studio Projects works as a document management system that allows me to upload PDF files and non-PDF files to the Studio Cloud. It serves as a check-in and check-out system, and I can also create shareable links and share those files to someone who may not have access to my project, or it could be someone who's outside of my organization. So to simply create a Studio project, you want to click on Start, and then you can select Studio Project. Now you can bring an entire folder structure that you may have saved locally on your computer, or you can start to build the folders in Studio Project and upload your files one by one. You have an option there. So let me jump into a Studio project that I already have started. And in the Studio project, I have two folders. I have an architectural folder and I have a mechanical folder. So I went ahead and uploaded these files earlier. So let me open up and expand the architectural folder. And here I have a list of single sheet drawing that are saved individually. And when I double click on those files, you can see that in the document tab, I have that lock icon indicating that this document is currently in a read-only mode. So when I click on that lock icon, Revu Mac will give me the option to go ahead and check out the document. And I can go ahead and check that out. And once it's checked out, I'm now free to go ahead and take any of my markup tools or any of my tools that I currently have on my tool chest and place them on my PDF file. Let me go ahead and check this document back in. Give that a second. And now I can go ahead and add a comment. Maybe I might want to add a comment that said check document, maybe my initials, and now that document gets pushed back up to the cloud. Now, with my documents that are in Studio Project, I can create a shared link. So this is the link that I had mentioned earlier. So when I create that shared link file, so I can either share that link for the lifetime of the project or for 24 hours. So let's say I keep that file shared for 24 hours. I'm going to say OK. And here is that link. So I can either copy this link, open up an email template, paste it, or I can just open up a web browser and go ahead and paste that in there. So let me go ahead and open up a web browser. So let me navigate to my Safari. I'm going to go ahead and paste that link in there. And this is what your team member outside of your organization would see. So they can go ahead and they'll get a message saying that a file has been shared with you. It also will let them know who shared that file and the name of that file. And they can just simply go ahead and click on download and download that file locally to their hard drive. Now, that document is a live link, so if that file gets updated in the next month or the next week or so, when that individual clicks on that link again, they will receive the up-to-date copy. They can re-download the up-to-date copy through that shared link file. Now, as a host of this project, there's a couple of things I can do here. So if I go into my settings, as a host, I can see a general, user access, permissions, and folder permissions tab. So the general just gives me general information about this project, project ID number, the total number of users, and the total number of files, which I really like to have those facts handy. Now it also tells me how much space I'm taking up on the Studio Cloud. Now remember, Studio Projects is free, and it has and you have a limited storage with Studio Projects. Now in my User Access tab, I can see all the users that I have invited, and I can enable or disable to restrict attendees to enter this project. In my Permissions tab, I can create groups, and I can select specific attendees, and I can enable or disable specific permissions that I want them to have. In the folder permissions, one of my favorite things that I like about Studio Projects is that I can go ahead and, again, change the permissions of each one of those folders, but also if there's a folder that I want to hide from a particular member or a particular group, I can select that folder and change those folder permissions from there as well. All right, now another great thing I like to do in projects is I like to leverage Studio Projects and Studio Sessions together. Now Studio Sessions allows me to have that real-time collaboration that I can work with team members who are within my office, different office, or just in different time zones. So I can take any of these files and I can right-click and I can add it to a new session. I can go ahead and name that session anything I would like. So let's say we're doing a 30% design review. I'm going to click OK. And our review is taking that file, it's checking it out of Studio Projects, and it's pushing that into a new Studio session for that real-time collaboration. So in this session, I see the name of that session. I see the people who are attending the session. So in this case, it's just myself. So it's a party for one. And then just below that, we can see the documents that are part of the session. So when I click on that document, I'm now downloading that file that's been pushed up to that session. And you notice that in the document tab, I have an icon. Rather than having the lock that I had earlier, I have a blue box with a propped open door, indicating that this is a session document that I'm working with. Now I have a record and I have a pending tab. The record tab keeps a record of every single activity that happens in a session. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and grab a mechanical markup, and I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in to this room and just place the cloud on my PDF. Now you notice that in the record tab, it's keeping that record of the activity that's happening. If someone else jumps into the session and joins me, it would also note that as well. And don't forget that the markups list is also keeping a record of every single markup that gets added into your PDF file. Now the pending tab allows me to work with Studio Sessions offline. So if I were to disconnect from my Wi-Fi, I could still have access to this PDF file that you have in front of you. And in the meantime, I can still continue to mark up my document, and the pending tab will keep a record of all the items that are still pending to get pushed back to the Studio Cloud. So the minute I make that network connection, Review Sessions is going to evaluate the items that I have pending and push it back into the Studio Cloud. So anyone else who's part of this Studio session will be able to have a chance to see those markups and comments that have been added. Now I am the host of the session, so similar to the settings that I had with Studio Projects, I have different permissions that I can access. One thing I do like is I can set up a session expiration date. Now, setting a session expiration date allows me to go ahead and automatically end the session for my other project team members. So when I enable this, I can then, select a date and also a specific time that I want to end this session for my team members. And what's going to happen is, let's say I ended the session 3 weeks from today's date. And approximately 7 days before the session ends, my team members will have an email notification. And then 3 days before it ends, a day before, and then we'll also get an email the day of letting them know that the session has officially ended. Now, it has ended officially for everyone else except me, since I'm the host of the session. I can either then come back into the session, finish the session, or for whatever reason, I can go ahead and extend the life of the session, and immediately my team members will be notified that session number has been extended. I can also see the attendees that are part of this session, and at any time I can select those attendees' names and restricted, and I can also set permissions. I can enable or disable specific permissions that I want to allow my team members to have in a session. All right. Now, another great thing as a host that I have is I can create a report. So I can go ahead and create a report of all the activities that happen in the session. That's going to list all the attendees, all the documents that are part of the session, and I can really have this really nice archive report that I can go ahead and save it with the rest of my documents. All right, so that is Studio Session in a nutshell. So let me go ahead and exit out of this document, and we'll talk about the biggest question you might have on your mind after seeing everything that Revu Mac has in store for us. So you're probably wondering, how much does this all cost? So for one perpetual license for Revu Mac is $149 with an optional maintenance subscription of $29 a year. If you currently have any existing seat of Revu, whether that's Revu CAD, Standard, or Extreme, you can go ahead and transfer that existing seat and trade it in for a seat of Revu Mac. If we want to check your eligibility for that, please go ahead and send us an email with your serial number so we know who you are at registration@bluebeam.com. So again, if you want to check the eligibility, if you want to transfer your seat of Revu, your existing Revu to Revu Mac, go ahead and email us at registration@bluebeam.com. Also, I want to remind you to save the date for Bluebeam Extreme Conference. Registrations opens up in April, and our conference is going to be in San Diego, California. The dates are August 15th through the 17th. It's a really great opportunity to get additional training, ask us Bluebeamers additional workflow questions. We love to hear from you. But it's also a great opportunity for you to network with with other industry professionals and to hear from other industry professionals on how they are also pushing the limits. And I do want to say a final thank you for being part of Bluebeam history and attending the very first Revu Mac webinar. We hope you enjoyed and are excited as we are to know all the great things that Revu Mac has to offer. Thank you.